officers that were returned to work. Daryl Brewer, in that particular situation, was given a conditional discharge. And so by law, Daryl Brewer does not have an actual record for assault because he fulfilled those conditions without breaching those conditions. So he's back to work, in essence, without a criminal record.
But in terms of comparing the two offenses?
Yeah, I mean, the essence of it is simply this, is that when you are convicted under the Police Act of a crime, you are automatically deemed guilty of an offense at the Police Act level. So Daryl Brewer, if we want to use Daryl Brewer as an example, was convicted by a judge for assault and mischief. So he's automatically deemed guilty under the Police Act of that particular complaint. The issue then became, what was the appropriate remedy for Daryl Brewer to come back to work, and what was the appropriate suspension? That case was never arbitrated. As Ms. Campbell has indicated here before, she was certainly well aware of the risks going into the arbitration, and a large part of it was simply her saying, hey, I've got to fight for my fellow police officers here. I need to take this to arbitration, not only to clear my name and make it publicly straight as to what happened that day at Martin's, but also to stand up to the management issue and let people know at the force that they can arbitrate these issues, that they can fight back, that they should not just sit idly by and take the punishment that's dished out. And I believe that's what I heard from her statement.
Just one question to Ms. Campbell. Do you think this is a personal vendetta by the chief?
No.
No? Do you think if this same issue would have happened in Halifax, the same conclusion would have happened?
If I had have,
Same issue would have happened in Halifax, shoplifting. Do you think it would have went through the same procedure?
yes,
Charles, there's other cases across the country that we were able to show at the conclusion of Cherie's case that police officers have been charged for theft and have been found guilty in court for theft and were returned back to work.
Okay, that's what I meant.
Yeah, and unfortunately that didn't happen here. We led cases to the arbitrator to demonstrate that there are precedents set where police officers had committed theft, not only just theft, but theft from their employer, okay, and were returned back to
So
work.
how come it never happened in this case?
Well, that ultimately was the decision that the arbitrator made, and I can only read what's written on paper. He believed that there was no, at the end of the day, that there was no corrective value. And I'll quote it to you, Charles. It says, he didn't believe that a reprimand, whether verbal or written, was appropriate. He didn't have any evidence to believe that professional counseling or participation in a treatment program would be appropriate. He didn't believe that working under close supervision would be of any obvious benefit, nor would there be any special training or retraining would benefit her. A suspension without pay for any length of time or a reduction in rank would do nothing to restore the trust which she breached, and a termination, in his view, was the only appropriate remedy. And you know, having said that, there's some serious financial consequences that occurred over the past year for Ms. Campbell when she took on this fight. And we offered that remedy to the arbitrator, that he had the opportunity to reduce her rank, which would again have affected her financially. So at the end of the day, it's his decision, it's his decision.
Would something like this be better done by a three-man panel, not just one?
I don't know. I mean, it's the act calls for a single arbitrator to deal with the issue.
So we gotta change the act.
Well, there needs to be some changes. I just don't believe that the changes that are required are the ones that the New Brunswick Police Commission are pushing.
And this is a question for either Constable Campbell or Corporal Duffy. There are a couple other officers who are facing charges right now who are on administrative desk leave. Can you comment about, and these alleged offenses could be construed as much more serious in nature. Tim Sowers, it's a fact, it's on video, he confronted a suspect in custody which ended up torpedoing prosecution for robbery. And that's, I'm not casting aspersions on Sergeant Sowers, but do you feel it's an equitable situation where you were on suspension with pay, whereas this officer, accused of something perhaps more serious, although he has a longer career, is on desk duty right from the beginning, and now Corporal Fleur is back on desk duty. Can either of you comment about that?
If I just may offer a little bit, and it maybe speaks to your previous issue a bit too, Don. I think what we're seeing is this is the discretion of the chief. right? The chief, that one individual, takes into consideration the circumstances and makes a decision on whether or not they stay on duty in a lesser role with the public, or whether they are suspended with pay. And with the proposed changes, suspended without pay, right? So, to circle back a little bit, I think that's why perhaps we're seeing differences in other places too. What goes to what lengths, what goes, is resolved at an arbitration or at a settlement conference versus going all the way to arbitration. If there's a discussion in a settlement conference, and, you know, most times the two positions are opposite ends of the spectrum, the goal is to work somewhere in the middle. And it's not going to be definitively the middle, it may lean one way or the other. But if there's no moving from your position, no matter how far you come, for instance, I'll only settle with your termination or your resignation, that's not a settlement conference, you know. So that, taking that position and then carrying it forward, you know, you can see now, does personality weigh into it? Perhaps it does. Like the chief's personality or how they view things, you know, it may differ from the chief of police in Fredericton to the chief of police in St. John to Mayor Machie, right? There's no cookie cutter set of standards that are applied. Those decisions rest on the chief of police for each organization.
But do you think that those decisions are being made inconsistently?
I do, personally, yes.
Could I ask you about